So once again, I have moved slightly onward from what I wanted to talk about in this video, so not ideal, but let's see if we can trace the thread. I was getting a lot of messaging from the animal kingdom. I always hesitate to talk about these kinds of things because there can be a lot of confusion and hallucinatory, illusory, egocentric, uh, unrealities, I suppose, because then they're attractive in a certain kind of way. Um, People start talking about things that are beyond their level of experience, that are based on beliefs, that are based on a desire for being spiritually awake or attuned or something, and therefore cannot be very helpful. And so I've developed a tendency to kind of avoid that kind of thing, and then that's because I've also noticed the tendency in me to be attracted to that like alternative, different, weird way of seeing things, or like something that's just not the materialistic bread and butter. And then also not really knowing how to interpret it accurately, and so not wanting to confuse myself, and so avoiding it. And then also not feeling confident in my ability to interpret intuitive things. So like being comfortable in a certain with a certain degree of certainty, and then with that not being there in intuitive navigating or deciphering or interpreting, choosing to not engage so much. Yet it keeps coming, and maybe the way I relate to it now is more, it's there, I notice it, I notice what comes up for me. I don't give too much regard or attach or identify or run with any of the narratives that then come up. I just continue to notice, and then the pieces kind of come together at some point. That seems to have to be what has worked best. When there's been a build-up of shadow content or something that hasn't been dealt with or processed or seen, there's like a thing with spiders. I just see spiders a lot, and then they are on my body and near me and whatever. So that was happening, and I noticed, and then flies just started hanging around in my room and around me. So I was noticing that as well, and a certain exhaustion was setting in, and that kind of like then aversion to constant activity, and then therefore an aversion to life. And it seems that it's either one or the other. You're either moving with life or against it, and then anything that is against it is, well, that is like death to whatever degree. And so this all came into nice resolution for me when I was sitting in the park early in the morning, just quietly with my eyes closed, and it's pretty still and silent and quiet, and then all of a sudden there was just a a couple flies bothering me, and then my attention brought to that, and then natural questioning arising. What is this? What is it about? Is it part of the same narrative? Noticing things. Um, and then I had the sense that, like, yes, this is important. Like, keep the inquiry going. Stay open to answers. Don't. One of the things is that I heard from Sadhguru. He says a logical mind always comes up with a stupid answer to something that is like way beyond what the logical mind can comprehend. And if you ever want to know or experience the reality of things, you just got to stop um, giving a stupid answer to things. You know, like people who think they're intelligent because they're um, heavily identified with the logical part of the mind always have some stupid answer for everything. And there's a lack of acknowledgement of how much is unknown. Um, and so with that in mind, I was a little bit hesitant to like provide answers to things. Um, and that worked out well because later on everything kind of just came together in quite a cohesive pattern. I had a cup of coffee, which then, like, because I was feeling not energized and lethargic, uh, I felt I needed the energy boost, which it obviously did do. And then because of my sensitivity to these kind of things, that I was not able to maintain awareness inside because it was a little bit uncomfortable and painful. So I kept, in a very subtle way, dissociating or just externalizing the attention. Um, and whenever the attention is externalized, when you're looking at something, the stress response is triggered. You're in your the sympathetic nervous system is the dominant thing, and um, you are in a state of separation because it's I'm here and that's there, the thing that I'm looking at. Uh, and then obviously there are gradations of intensity of that experience, but ultimately every time the attention is outward, one is in that state, one is in the stress response. One feels lack, one feels separation, one feels anxious. Um, that's simply what it is. And so the inverse is true as well. If one is not looking at anything, if one can bring the attention to energy, to the internal experience, attention on space rather than things, um, then one feels more at ease. The parasympathetic nervous system is more active, and there's a greater sense of calm and peace and wholeness. Um, and then you could also put in that dichotomy that the attention on energy is life, and then externalized is death. And why I say that is because when one is attending to the flow of prana within, there is then the potential for something new. But if the attention is not on the flow of prana, it's on something outside, and the prana, the body is not in a state where the prana can flow freely, then it will flow in a loop, in in some sort of established pathway, and that is based on something in the past, something that is dead. and then you're just repeating the past. The more your attention is outside, and so if you continue down there, you decay and you die because life is not doing anything new. That clicked for me, and I then recognized the pattern with the flies. That's the obvious. They like to be around decaying things, and then because of the unsettledness within me, I wasn't attending to the internal as much as I could have, and so life was saying, "Look at this." Um, part of my wanting, part of the reason that crash happened, that the exhaustion and stuff set in, was because I was extending myself beyond what was natural. In terms of the Ayurvedic system, I am predominantly Pitta, and that predisposition is one who's constantly wanting to get shit done. um, High standards for the self, for oneself, high expectations, perfectionism, that can be the kind of imbalances in that direction. And so I was in one of those, and then extending beyond, coming up to my maximum capacity, and pushing myself. And then obviously there will be a burnout and a refractory period. Hence the dip in energy. And so the whole experience helped me to see that more clearly as well. And I also realized that part of that wanting to come out and do more stuff and get better and stuff is is a pathological, neurotic, illusory, hallucinatory sense of hope that for something, which always comes from the ego, because it's like, hope for who? Hope for me, um, to be something, to do something, to have something, um, to be better than whatever the thing is. Uh, you have things a certain way or change something, uh, and all of that is a step removed from the life process. And so to allow it to fully sink in that it is hopeless is liberating. Like, this one will die. And so in that way, this is also coming from Sadhguru. Uh, in that way, it is hopeless. There's no hope for this one. It's dead already. Like, since once it's been born, then the fate is sealed. Um, Funny, my girlfriend is reading a book by the sort of father of rebirthing, Leonard Orr, a book about, I think it's called Overcoming the Death Urge. And he talks about becoming immortal and wada. And although there's kernels of, more than kernels, I suppose, of truth in there, to me it's quite clearly coming from a that sense of hope, or that wanting to avoid what's inevitable. I was just having a chuckle because he's dead now, so it didn't work for him. Just like everybody else ever. Yeah, when that acceptance is there, then one can just be with life, and then the naturalness of the being is allowed to come forward, and that is joy, and that is bliss, and that sees everything in the highest lens, because it's not overlaying this sense of hope for something, not trying to change things, and then it doesn't matter what's happening, everything is engaged with fully. Um, and there's no like trying to rush ahead, or there's no missing the moment now because of the, the desire for something else that's pulling the attention somewhere. Uh, and then when that is allowed to settle, then you know what can be done is done, and what can't be done is not done, and that's how else is it going to be? Um, so these realizations all coming together, and then another trip around the inward spiral, I suppose one way to think of it. Um, and I was reminded about geometry and sacred geometry and how much it means to me, and how conducive it is to the system that I'm working with. Uh, and I'd kind of put it to the side because got other shit to do and all that stuff. Um, and then I just started playing around a bit and having a look at stuff, and uh, immediately it brought things into a, a greater sense of order, and uh, helped me to understand things more. There was less confusion, um, and it reignited the sense that this is something important that I need to engage in because of its ability, because of its transformative ability. And I don't know exactly what that is until I've engaged with it more. Um, I suppose I will say that when my eyes are closed, in that darkness there, whatever lights and stuff is around, it's it takes more of an ordered shape. It's more geometric. You can see the geometric patterns, um, and that was just from looking at these shapes for a while. So there's definitely a power there. Uh, Without harping on, like everything in creation is geometric. For something to have a form, it needs to adhere to the rules of form, which are geometric laws. So if the energy holds itself in a certain shape, then it lasts. But if it doesn't, then it disintegrates. um, Sweet.